G'day and welcome to another episode of Full Bore. I'm Steve Lanchester and I've gone and bought myself another project car, which is not too uncommon for this channel. However, the type of car that I've chosen this time is a little bit different to what I'd normally go for, purely because it has modern technology in it in the form of semiconductors and circuits and computer chips and stuff like that. Now, that's not what makes this car such a project or such a challenge, really. It's predominantly because this car actually went through the 2022 Lismore floods right over the roof. Now, when you mix flood water with computers, bad things generally happen. And that, mixed with the fact that this car has not been started since the floods, which is about a year and a half ago now, means that we're going to have a real challenge on our hands. Luckily for me, I've got Davo, the mechanical wizard, who, if I bribe well enough, will probably give me a hand with it. So, look, the car's not going to go and fix itself whilst we're chatting here. Let's go check it out. That's right, boys and girls. On this episode, we're going to be working on a HDJ100 Toyota Land-Cruiser, which is potentially one of Toyota's best ever vehicles. This particular car, however, having gone through the floods, is in a bit of a state, but this one photo is the only photo that I have of it prior to the floods. And as the story goes, this bloke purchased it 2 weeks before the floods hit for 32 grand. Now, the floods went so high, it went over the roof, and some of the stuff in his shed actually settled on the roof and put dents in it. Now, these photos here are the condition of the vehicle when I inspected it for the first time, and as you can see, it hadn't been cleaned and the dash was all pulled apart to get to the ECU. The engine did crank over, however it had zero compression whatsoever. We also found that the turbo was seized solid as well. You will notice, however, that the car itself is actually in pretty good condition still, and I worked out a price with the owner, bought it, put it on a car trailer behind Duncan and drove it home very slowly. When we got it home, we realised that the engine was seized solid. I could not get it to turn over with the bar. So we pulled the starter motor out of it and Davo, the mechanical wizard, rebuilt it. We put the starter back in and managed to break the engine free. We have no idea what happened because we only turned the motor over about a week prior and it turned over really freely.
That moved, did it? Yep.
This footage here is actually of us trying to crank over the engine for the first time since getting it home, and as you can see, the starter motor overcomes whatever the seizure is inside of the engine, and we believe it was probably just a bit of a ring ridge caused by some condensation.
Bunch of schmutz just came out of one cylinder.
Now, this footage is taken on my iPhone -8 because I didn't have a camera on standby, and therefore the footage quality is really low, so please forgive me. Those of you with a keen ear will have noticed that whilst cranking over, this thing definitely is low on compression on some cylinders. You will also notice that the exhaust manifold and turbo have already been taken off, and that is predominantly to gain access to each cylinder and allow us to spray like WD-40 spray or intake decarb spray down into the cylinders. This was hopefully to help break up any rust or schmutz that was causing the low compression, and we believe that the piston rings had potentially jammed into the ringlands, causing low compression on those cylinders. There was also the potential that it may have some sticky valves or valves with a little bit of schmutz under them, but our thoughts were that over time it would come good with prolonged running. The next trick was to actually get the car started.
Something bad happens.
The next issue that we came across was the fact that the car wasn't starting at all. And this being an electronically controlled pump meant that there must be some sort of engine management issue. And Dave, with his eagle eye, picked up that there was no engine light on the dash even with the ignition on. So we decided to pull the ECU out of the car and give it a really good inspection.
Not looking good for the flooded 100 series ECU.
Dave, once again, with his eagle eyes, found that the main chip on the board was missing one of its legs. To most people, that would practically mean that this ECU was junk, but with his infinite electronic ability, Dave was able to grind a little bit back from the chip to gain access to more of the missing pin. From there, he soldered a small piece of wire to that pin, then back down to the circuit board itself. That, my friends, is automotive surgery. And the results speak for themselves.
Moment of truth. Dave's just soldered up a portion of the ECU. Am I right to switch the ignition on?
Yep.
If we've got an engine light, I'm going to be a happy boy. You're kidding. There's an engine light.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll the scan tool back.
Wait a minute. Holy doolies.
I've got to say, I have never been so happy to see an engine light on in my life.
This is a great little scan tool for what it is, eh? Didn't come up with that before.
No.
3 fault codes.
I'm surprised there's only 3. Oh yeah, well that's all the things that are disconnected.
Intake, air temperature, circuit malfunction.
I think it's just time to turn the key now.
What, to start it?
Yeah.
Ready? It's injecting fuel, isn't it?
Well, I think so, as long as that's not just smuts igniting. Just make sure everything's still hooked up.
Should I unplug this charger? It'll be right, eh?
No, I'd leave it on there. Yeah, I would have hoped that it fired up a bit easier than that if it was going to go, but give it a little more to go.
Now, the next issue on our hands, now that the ECU is supposedly okay, is that the car just wouldn't start at all. Now, stupidly, we hadn't checked to see what the quality of the fuel going into the injector pump was like, and as it turns out, it was pretty much just all water, which is no good for the pump or the injectors. So we spent the rest of that night flushing everything out and getting some nice fresh diesel up to the pump. The next day was the make or break moment for this vehicle. Because I'd spent a substantial amount of money buying it, it was also the point in which I'd know whether I'd done me dough or found myself an absolute bargain.
Oh, you can crank it?
Well, I can crank it so you can...
Nah, Dave.
Crank it from here if you want. Ready?
Yep. Shut her off. Want me to shut it off? You want it to shut it off? No, not yet. Might as well let it go and let it go. What are we supposed to throw it?
Yeah, that's a lot of blow-by. It could be stuck rings.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I mean, look, I'm kind of happy with that. Shall I turn the ignition on and see what the compression sounds like? To turn the ignition off.
The ignition's off now anyway, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, yeah.
Probably getting better.
That's
Definitely better.
that's way better.
That might suggest more likely it's stuck rings.
Well, that in conjunction with the blow-by.
Yeah, so more running.
The VSR kicked in.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but that's way better than what it is.
Yeah, that gives me probably more hope that it's not a bent rod. Probably just stuck rings.
In which case we just keep feeding it and let it sit and start her up every now and again.
Yeah, I don't know why it's hunting so badly. I don't know whether that means it's sticky in the injector pump or what, but even that might come good in time. But I think the problem now, you really need to just even throw the exhaust manifold on, even if it's just sort of just there, without even gasket.
Yeah.
Just to kind of muffle this noise, because we need to be able to run it.
The more we run it, the more like if it doesn't improve over a period of time, then you know it's kind of stuff.
It is improving, so that's a hugely good sign. Turn the ignition back on, just see if it'll start again. Turn it back off again once it does start.
Yep.
Ready?
What a weapon, Dave.
Yeah, I reckon.
Give her another crankski for me, just so we can.
Not near as throbby, is it?
No. Good on you, Dave. Flaming. No, there wouldn't be many people who would want to take on something like this.
Well, there you have it, boys and girls. That is how you get a flooded 100 Series Land Cruiser going after sitting around for a year and a half. And it really goes to show just how much a car can go through before it is 100% dead. Now, it does take a special kind of person or people with enough know-how and time on their hands to really be able to do stuff like this, because this is next level mechanicking. Needless to say, I'm pretty happy hearing that engine running, but we're still concerned about the fact that it was surging whilst idling, and it also didn't really accept any throttle inputs, which means that either something is wrong with the throttle position sensor or the ECU could still be damaged. Well everyone, I'd call that a great success. I'm really happy that we got this thing going, and that's predominantly because I was sweating bullets about this thing because I'd spent enough money on it for it to hurt if it didn't start, and that engine was cooked, and therefore I'd have to try and reimburse that money by selling bits off of it, and that would be a massive pain in the doot because I'd have to deal with people on Facebook Marketplace, and that is truly the worst. Anyways, yeah, look, I mean, it's running. That's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, and at this point, it's been probably about 3 or 4 months since I actually bought the car, so all of the footage that you have just watched has been over the space of a few months. I've just stitched it together really poorly. And I apologise for using my mobile phone, but sometimes just trying to track down a camera is a massive pain. But anyways, still a little bit concerned about the fact that it's running a bit funny and it's surging at idle, but we reckon it's probably the throttle position sensors full of water. And you just don't know what electronics that have been through water is going to do. It might be sending weird signals to the ECU. On the flippity flip, it could also be that the ECU has still got an issue, which hopefully it doesn't, because I think that's going to be not a fun one to fix. But I reckon it's the throttle position sensor. Anyways, future episodes on this thing, gonna have to clean it up because it still smells like the bottom end of Lismore. We're going to inevitably find about 20 other electrical gremlins, including every single door window motor is probably going to be seized. The dash will probably fail on me or something. HVAC, blower fan doesn't work. And just the general of everything. Just amazing what a flood can do to a car. But it's amazing what you can recover if you know what you're doing. Anyways, we'll catch you guys next time on the future episode of Full Bore.